Take it slow. Don't get in your way. Keep it moving at the pace of every weather.
Every time I come into girls group, I always instantly feel warm and calm and happy. It's like having a support team always by your side.
I wasn't sure if I was going to like any of the girls who were doing it, and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to open up. I kind of thought it was some sort of like hippy-dippy thing my mom signed me up for, so that was kind of my first impression, but
it was like the best experience, and it was just amazing.
I instantly felt so comfortable and just like, I didn't know if those would be the people that would be with me for like 8 more years of my life.
I joined girls group in 6th grade and I'm now graduating from high school, so it's been a while.
I actually recently just joined girls group this past year. I graduated high school early, so it's really helped me with the transition from high school into the adult world.
I think it means that I always know I have someone rooting for me, that no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, no matter how alone I feel, there's always going to be a group of people in my life somewhere that are there to support me.
I went to an outer district high school for German, and I had a really hard time meeting down-to-earth people, which is why girls group means so much to me.
Girls group is the one place in my life where I am an open diary and where I feel 100% authentically me, and where I never feel like I'm being judged by anyone.
Emily is amazing because I feel like for all of us, she is like a sister, a friend, and like a mother figure.
She just saw me and she was just like there and she was just talking to me, and
Her just there for me no matter what.
And she'll be able to help me deal with that problem as a sister, as a friend, as a mother.
Girls group to me means having an anchor through whatever you do, but knowing that there's a place that's safe for you and that you can come back to at any time, and just having that strong relationship throughout your life.
It sounds a little overdramatic, but it's one of the best things I've ever done, and it continues to be a part of my life. It's shaped who I am, and the people who are in it, who are surrounding me, I feel like will be a part of my life forever, hopefully? Question mark. I don't know about you. Okay.
I'm playing this one.
Don't forget there is unknown inside you. Don't turn away from yourself by being like somebody else. You are tide crashing over.
A wise person said to me once to live as though the girls are watching. I'll never forget that. It's made me more of who I want to be, because it's true.
Alright, thank you to the girls. Such a beautiful film. My name is Emily, that was me, and I want to welcome everybody coming here tonight. This is an evening that feels like it's been growing as a gift to our community for quite a while. I've had the honor of leading this group for almost 8 years, not quite. I feel like I met these young women when they were young girls and have gotten to participate and help grow them into who they want to be. And it's been a huge honor for me, and it's been the same back to me. The vision for this event feels like a gift for all of us as well, to be seen and witnessed by you, so thank you for showing up. This is a marking in our journey since we met as the girls and families, and including all the parents. This is a moment for you too, and it's definitely one for me. I'm going to just do a quick introduction of our next speakers, and then I'll come back with the girls to start the panel. So next you'll hear from Quetzal Francois, who is my business partner and beloved sister. We met a few years ago. It was love at first sight, and we've been collaborating ever since. And that she will be followed by Diana DeVecha, who's a dear friend, mentor, and guide to me in the depth and relevance of this work. So let's give a warm welcome to Quetzal.
Hi, this is the fun part where I have to test the mic and am I tall enough? All right, I think we got this. So welcome. We're so happy to be here with you all tonight, to be sharing this space, and thank you for being here. So Emily and I joined forces as business partners about 3 years ago, and since then we've led many groups, retreats, and workshops. We were just trying to do the math a few nights ago, and at this point we've worked with over 100 girls in the Bay Area. So that's a little bit of a big deal. And I share this with you tonight because the vision for so much of our collaboration of the work that we're doing is deeply inspired by the incredible group of girls that are going to be speaking tonight. Emily started this group, as she mentioned, many years ago, right? It's been almost 8 years. And the friendships in this group, the commitment that these girls have to each other, their willingness to dive in and get real with each other has been a complete inspiration. I would say it's even more than that. It's become a map, a symbol, if you will, for what's possible when we make spaces for teens to lead, to let us know what they actually need and want, and when we pay attention to their inherent wisdom. So that's what you're going to witness tonight. I also want to give you a little flow of the evening. So we're getting started here. We're going to have our panel discussion for about an hour or so. We're hoping to close the panel part about 9 o'clock, at which point we'll have some time for dessert, tea, some hangout time until about 9:30. So hang out for that part too. This is your community, right? So get to know the people who are here. Take advantage of this space. Before we start, I do have a few questions for you though. So this is going to be one of those raise your hand. So please raise your hand if you are a teen in this audience tonight. Yes, and so sweet to see so many familiar faces. Woo-hoo! And please raise your hand if you're a parent of a teenager in this space tonight. Yes, thank you for being here. Raise your hand if you're an educator, a mentor, a therapist with teens and young people. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. And one last one. Raise your hand if, as a young person, whether that's in the past for you or currently, you lacked or currently lack support that you need as a teenager. So I want to invite you to keep your hand raised here. Yeah, this is vulnerable, but let's take a look at who is raising their hand. That's most people in this room, right? So the work that we're doing, the relevance of this work, is already visible just by seeing your hands up tonight. So thank you for showing up, for deciding that this was the place to be tonight, for showing your love and your support to our powerful young speakers tonight. It truly takes a village. Thank you. I'm going to let Diana share a few words and then we'll get started. Thank you.
I feel a little like the accountant that comes in at the middle of the Oscars. I have a very different tone. I'm a developmental psychologist, so I study how children, teens, and families grow and develop. And Emily and I found each other, I think, because we held different sides of the same coin. So I myself have the research and science side, and Emily obviously came with the practice of being with teens for a very long time in a very deep way. So our conversations always refracted through these two lenses, which fascinated both of us. And so through these conversations, I've come to respect and admire and just feel so grateful for the spaces that both Emily and Quetzal hold for teenagers. I know from working with teens and raising my teens, but definitely from the science and the data, that having this space during this period of incredible reorientation, transformation, is so important because teenagers are, moving out into the world, and parents are holding home and can't hold home and the world at the same time. And so we need people like Emily and Quetzal and so many mentors and guides out there, so that there's a network and a scaffold to help keep the kids supported. It is not easy to be a youth in America today. All the international data, pick any measure, and American youth have a more difficult time than youth in other countries that are comparably developed. There's a lot of data on that. I'm sure you see headlines, like I see headlines in the paper about millennials, Gen Z, about youth, and the adjectives they use are disparaging. And then parenting books on this age group, usually use the word survival in the title, like this is something to be survived, which is nuts, and a squandering of opportunity. So I think that, truly, I feel that if any other demographic group was maligned in the way that teenagers are maligned in our culture, that we would recognize it as a systematic bias, as a systematic prejudice. But you're here because you know that teens' voices matter. Of course, they matter to their own psychological well-being first and foremost. But they're also, exquisitely and elegantly designed to matter to society. They are the ones, more than any other segment of the lifespan, that are designed to revision our future, reimagine our societies. So we have a huge investment in supporting their voices. Almost no social movement has succeeded without teen participation. The civil rights movement, anti-apartheid movement, the free speech movement, probably the only one that succeeded without teens is AARP. Most international human rights organizations stipulate that teens need to be at the table. They have a right to have a say in the matters that will affect them and affect their futures. So we're all invested in hearing from the teens. They hold our collective futures. I hope that you'll find a morsel or two that will enliven or enlighten the way you think about teens or your work, your support of teens. And this is their first public forum, which I am pretty sure you're sensitive to, and so let us give them our very best positive and heartfelt energy tonight. Thanks for being here.
I think so. Okay, great. I'm just going to invite all of us, as we always do. I lit the candle just because I wanted to sit down, but just as we always do, to light the candle and set an intention or find some sort of center for yourself. Take a deep breath. This is a thing we're doing. Everyone's here because they love us. We love each other. That's all that matters. And just remembering that everything that we're trying to be or do is already inside of us. There's nothing you could say wrong. There's no need to try. And that's going to be great. And have fun. So, we're going to do a brief, just going around saying name. And we'll start at the end and it'll come back to me, and then I'll talk a little and get us into the first question. Yeah.
Hi.
Was it on?
Testing.
No. Do you see how to turn it on?
There's a little bit. It is.
It is on. Is the mic out of that one?
This one is
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Rosalie Kenward, and yeah, that is me.
I'm Kate Van Reinhardt.
My name is Ella.
I'm Bella. I'm Dylan Grace Borges.
Hi, I'm Coralie Border.
Nice. I'm Emily. One of the things that has been so obvious to me in leading this group for quite a while is that this group isn't just for the girls, it's for me. And I'm definitely having some pre-withdrawal about the fact that they're going to move on soon. I'm having my own mini parenting. We're not going to go there yet. I feel like the thing that I really want to share with you all is just the idea of the Teen Wisdom panel with these girls is that I have watched that wisdom grow in them for so long, and it has shaped me and made me the mentor that I am, to be someone who can listen so deeply and accurately and then move from that place from their inspiration and what they're curious about. And that has evolved me as a person and as a facilitator and as a guide. So I want to start just by thanking you all. It's from that place that we arrive here, including me. And these girls have been part of my whole world. There are two girls I want to name who are not present tonight. One is Harmony, who's already off at college, and the other one is Kyla, who is also already off at college, even a year early, and they couldn't be here with us. But I want to name them and offer their presence and wisdom to this group too. And these girls have been through my rites of passage, not just me through theirs. They met me before I even met my husband. They were at my wedding. They watched me flip out about when to get pregnant and get pregnant and be there through my pregnancy. They were the ones taking pictures of me every month. They were there to receive Shay and my son Shay, and they have really seen me grow up too. So that's just one of the things I think that's often missed in the relationship and the dynamic with young people as the mature adult in the relationship, is that I'm also in the circle with you. I'm also being changed by you. And I think that's a vulnerability that we lose as we grow up and as we step into positions of authority. So I want to offer my humility to you all for having taught me so much. So, the way this is going to work is I'm going to kind of introduce a question. We've decided on themes together, and then we're going to have a dialogue, and then we'll try to track time so that we have enough time for, actually that would be helpful. So that we have enough time to get to all of these themes because they're really juicy. And the first one is, so, are you good? Yeah, okay. Sorry. No, it's all good. Okay, one of the things that we've learned over our years together is understanding how to connect to ourselves. We practice this by being honest and telling the truth, even if it's vulnerable or scary, and offering that to each other. Can you tell us about how this skill has grown in you? How has this changed your life or helped you support someone else? How has this group helped you become a more resilient person? So I'm going to pass it to Kate.
Yeah, so I really wanted to talk about this question because I feel like starting in 5th or 6th grade, I really had this norm of talking about pretty hard things sometimes, and being in a group where we talk about our emotions, we cry, like we talk about like everything from drama to more serious topics. And I felt like that was really the norm for me. And so when I kind of got to high school, I realized that a lot of my friends did not have that experience, were not used to talking about sex or like those more kind of uncomfortable topics. And kind of thinking about for this panel, I realized that has really shaped what I've gotten involved in high school and the way I've been able to be a leader in my community. So one of those things is I'm the president of our feminist club at Headway where I go in Oakland, and we've had conversations about everything from consent to sort of gender dynamics in the classroom to more global feminist issues and talking about race and gender and all those things. And I felt like because I've been able to connect on the girls group level, I was able to go up and talk to like rooms full of people and talk about these issues. And the other thing is I work with a foundation called One Love, and Belle does as well. And One Love is all about educating to prevent relationship violence. And so they do workshops with groups from 10 people to like 100 people about what a healthy relationship looks like, talking about abuse and violence, but also how to have a loving, caring relationship. And so again, like those were topics that I was able to kind of lean into. And yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I also like feel the same way. Like I think that being able to hold the space with Emily and watch her hold the space for us has like given me a chance to be able to hold a similar space, not as cool, but a similar space with other people. But when we were talking about this question, immediately what came to my mind is like who Emily is to me and what this group has come to mean in my life. And I mean, like every other high schooler sitting in front of you, we're all really busy doing all of our different extracurriculars and running around, and yet somehow every other Monday we all clear 2 hours out of our day, more like 2.5 because we always run over time, but to like sit and hold a space together. And it's not like a superficial space. It's like we're there and we're real, and it's never like we come and be a fake version of ourselves. It's like we stand in front of each other and are completely honest. And I think that Emily has taught us that by example. Like she's never sugar-coated something or made something sound like what it isn't, and that's something that I have always strived to do. I think that like every teenage girl should get a chance to sit in a circle like this and be able to be seen, because like I know that for me, I go to school every day, or I used to, like freshman year, I would go to school every day and put on a mask and act like a different person. And at girls group, I could take that off and be the truest, honest version of myself. And that was something that I wasn't confident enough to do before like really learning how to do that and how to be proud of myself and who I am, and like sitting with them and like looking around and seeing them respond to me has been this really, really powerful thing.
I just want to say that the value of this kind of space is completely immeasurable, and looking at these women tonight, I just feel so incredibly appalled at how lucky I am to have had this growing up, because this is not something that everybody has, and it has changed me so much. I feel like I'm a completely different person from when I started this group, and that's because it's given me a space to grow, to change, to not be tied of a preconceived image or idea of who I was or am. And something else we've talked about a lot is the power of female sacred space, and sort of how in our modern society there's not a lot of these spaces, especially in our culture, for women to have this kind of sacred space together, to be with women. Our society so often tends to pit women against each other, and I feel like this group helps us see other women as these powerful, capable beings, and it's incredible, and it's changed how I relate to other women in my day-to-day life. It's changed how I view my own female power, and I think it's done that for all of us.
I just want to say that I'm so thankful to have this space and to have all these girls, because I've seen them grow and they've seen me grow, and I've shared my stories and my vulnerabilities, and they've shared theirs with me, and every time I hear them talk and I see them all, I'm just reminded of what we all have in common, which is like the messiness of our lives, which is inevitable, but also that like they're so strong through all of that, and yet still imperfect, and that's true for even the best of people, and I've just been able to really see that through this group.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add anything? Thank you. I feel warm and fuzzy. Okay. The next topic, not so fluffy. Stress, anxiety, and depression. What do you feel are the biggest causes of stress, anxiety, or depression in your life? If you could tell us a little bit about the causes and also what you do to take care of yourself amidst it all. And this could be related to, personal stuff or family or school, the world as you're coming to know it.
When thinking about this topic, I found myself thinking about a particular moment. I was on my way to school with a friend, and I found myself feeling like the task of going through my day was going to be impossible. It just felt like something I couldn't fully approach doing, and I turned to my friend and I said, "Why do I feel like I can't do this?" And she said, "It's because we're not really meant to do this as human beings. We're not meant to focus so intensely for such long periods of time and to feel constantly put under pressure in an environment where we are, as we've said, not really encouraged in a way to be our authentic selves and to allow ourselves to be flawed and to be in the process of becoming." And like it's been said, Girls Group gives us this opportunity to just come as unfinished people and just kind of be okay with the beauty of that. And I think there's so many stresses of daily life today. I mean, for one, thinking about the college admissions process, it's so much more insane than it used to be. There's so much pressure to be a number and to be perfect. And I think coming to a space where we're more than a number and we're more than a statistic and we're more than a letter on a report card, that is incredible.
If I could stop with that really quickly, I totally agree with what Rosalie said, and I think sometimes for me at school, like it can be a pretty competitive environment in terms of academics or just like socially, and Girls Group is such the antidote to that. Like it's the most anti-competitive, like we're all in it together, and yeah, I just want to call that out.
I just want to say, first of all, that 4 years ago, I would have never imagined that I was here speaking to all these people. I've struggled with anxiety for a large part of my life, and social anxiety, different types, I don't even know. But it always starts as this voice in my head saying, oh, they're all going to judge you, they're all staring at you, they can tell that your hands are shaky, your voice is quivering, or whatever it is. And
and then it becomes something more than that, where it becomes so physical, like such a physical reaction that it feels like your mind can't even control it. And there's such a detachment between the mind and body where it's like, there's nothing I can think, but it's also not completely true. Like there's still things that I've learned that really ground me. And some of those things is like just thinking of these sort of truths, like no one is judging me as much as I think they are. And also no one is worrying about my problems and my insecurities as much as I am. Like I'm the one person who's worrying about it the most in the entire world, you know? And that's helped, but also other tools. Meditation, like it's real, you should try it. It works. I mean, it takes time, but it works. And all these things take time. Like, I think if you use a tool, like any of these tools, or your own tool, like just breathing, you can't expect it to instantly work, for it to erase all feelings of anxiety or whatever the feeling is, because I think you'll be disappointed because it takes a lot of time and dedication in order to feel the result. But you should stick with it because it can work, and you might never get rid of that like feeling of anxiety deep down. Like there might still be some of it there, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like I've kind of learned in a really weird way to sort of embrace that feeling. That might sound odd, but just to not be mad if it's there, or to not hate it or pick it apart, but just to like accept that it's there and notice what it feels like and just move through it. Because the fact that you're enduring something like that and that you're living through that is, I feel like it's something to be proud of, just that.
I agree. I would also like to add that I feel like we grow with our the feelings that we label as negative, the stress and the anxiety and the anger. I feel like I've just kind of not really gotten used to them, but sort of been like, hey, this is like the version. This is all me, and it's all me, and it's all okay. And some days, I feel like with this, I've learned that it's actually kind of exciting to be able to feel a feeling so big and not be mad at it and be like, okay, I'm feeling this feeling right now, and other people feel this feeling too, and it's okay. It's so easy to spiral, and I've learned a bit more about how it's like you feel stressed about something, like a test, but you use something else to kind of like mask over it. So now I'm actually counting calories, which has I'm like looking at myself in the mirror because somehow that relates to the stress that I'm feeling, because it's easier to control food than it is to control the test for some reason. And then you start feeling guilty because you know you shouldn't be doing this, but it's just about the test. But you don't think it's about the test because like, don't worry about the test. You're fine. But like, you're fat. So it's like this roller coaster. And I feel like with girls group, I've been able to slow down and notice certain aspects and different segments of it and being like, oh, wait, I'm doing that thing. And instead of feeling guilty about feeling a feeling about a test, I've been able to kind of just be in the feeling. And of course, this is a practice that takes a long time, as you were saying, and we're all coming from our little, our perspectives as, sure, we've been doing this for many years, but it is a life, I'll be working with this roller coaster, and everyone working with their own roller coaster for their entire lives, and you're probably never going to fix it because it's impossible. So, just at least I've just been really grateful to be able to notice that it's not just stress, and it's not just about a test. It's something bigger, and it's important, and you can use it, and you can channel it. And be grateful that your body feels feelings, because they're actually really cool, and anger is better than sadness sometimes. Wow.
so much. I think you're starting to get the feeling of what I believe the level of wisdom that's inside all of us, but especially inside of young people. And you've said it better than I'm not going to try. But I wanted to emphasize one of the pieces that was said is to be seen when you're spiraling, like you were saying. To be seen and loved in the middle of that, I think, is one of the gifts that any space like this offers to all of us, is that moment of timelessness when it all slows down and you realize what's happening and you get that breath of, I'm going to make it. And I feel like with this group and all the young people we work with, it's that moment, I'm going to make it, that we want, all of them to seed within, and then that's a gift that they can give to each other because they've learned how that happens. So thank you so much for your vulnerability in answering that question, and so powerful. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Okay. Okay, talk to us about self-esteem and body image. What lifts you up and what takes you down? How does social media relate?
So I'll start with this one. First, I just want to say, before this panel, I was like, Ella, can you drop one of your amazing check-ins? Because she always has these like super wide check-ins at girls group, and she totally did, and I'm really happy about it. I want to talk about this because I feel like body image was a part of my life before I knew what that meant, and I remember like being really little and like 6 or 7 and comparing my body to my friends and feeling like I was too big or like my life could be better if I looked differently. And it really took me until high school to realize that not everyone was thinking that way, and that like I didn't really see that as a problem, I think. And probably a few years ago I would have heard this question and be like, oh, that's not for me, like I don't have a problem with that. But now I really feel like I lost some of my childhood to that, to thinking about myself in that way. And and I think what's like helped me recognize that is when like talking to other girls about it. I don't think I talked to other girls about it like all through middle school, about insecurities, about like my body or my looks, and realizing that kind of like what Quetzal was saying, everyone is going through that dialogue, and that really nobody is thinking about you in that way or comparing you to other people in a negative way. And also just, I think, honestly getting older and like realizing that this is kind of who I'm going to be and accepting that. And I think having like older women in my life has helped, no, that sounds weird, but like mentors, has helped me a lot with that. I think part of that does come from our culture, which is so focused on image for women, and that is so ingrained. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kate, and just like reminding all of us that the words we're speaking are not just for ourselves, they're all of our words. We've all had those thoughts, and also the words of the people in this room, some of whom have never said them out loud, and certainly never been seen in the admitting of how vulnerable it is to be a person and go through all this really hard stuff. And yeah, just loving you, and I know it's a lot to admit how messed up it is. And that the way you said that you lost part of your childhood, I can really relate to that, even just personally. And I think we all kind of have the nuance of what we've lost, whatever it is, even if it's not this exact thing. And that's been a big theme for us. I'm gonna lift us. That's been a big theme for us is losing childhood and letting go of childhood and coming into awareness of what we've lost it to. Sometimes with honor and courage, and sometimes just with tears, because there is something lost. Thank you. Love you.
I can't follow that up. Sorry, I need to take a deep breath for you. I kind of want to like go off of something Kate said, that like the media plays a really big part in like how we see ourselves as young women, and I think it took me like you said a really long time to realize that when I looked in the mirror and I immediately thought of all the things that were wrong, that it wasn't actually like, it was influenced more by like outside media influence than like me deeply thinking that. And I think that that's a really big problem in our society, because we drive down the street and we see these skinny models on billboards that have been retouched like so many times, and we're, as like little girls, we're expected to look like that. Like our dolls are like Barbies, like their feet are like naturally in high heels, and like when I was little, I would like sneak into my mom's room and steal like the heels that she never wore, and I would take them into my bathroom and wear them, and you can still see in my bathroom all the little pock marks on the floor from the stiletto heels, and like that's not like, to me as like a little girl, I should be focused on like being outside and like spending time with my friends and like growing my mind and my body, and not wearing stiletto heels that will shorten my hamstrings so that stretching is hard to this day. So I think that highlights this really big part of our society that not a lot of, I mean, now people talk about it, but like if we were having this conversation in like 2010, probably wouldn't be the same conversation. And I think that like, to say that, it's like, it makes me feel better that like we're taking steps to embrace other body types and embrace other races in the media, and to like show that not every person looks the same way. Like every person looks different, and that we should not hold ourselves to a standard that we should be tall and thin and blonde and blue-eyed and clear-skinned all the time, and never. I mean, that like not looking that way is okay, because I know I've been talking for a really long time. This happens in girls' group all the time, but but like, I think that it's really powerful to be able to open a magazine or scroll through Instagram and see someone that looks like you, and that's not something that I felt like I could do. And I would look in the mirror and want to dye my hair blonde and look on Instagram and figure out which workouts are going to make me skinny, and that's not a healthy thing. And the media doesn't tell you that. So yeah.
I think along with social media creating a certain pressure around what kind of body image or body you're supposed to have, it also creates a huge pressure around the lifestyle you're supposed to live. I mean, you wake up and the moment you open Instagram, you're bombarded with all these pictures of people that are happy, and and they're just glimpses into the lives of these people. And you don't even know what's going on with them, but you just see their happiest highlights. And that's really all you see, so you think that's what you need to portray too, when that might not be the case with you, and you might not be that way all the time. And I think it's also really important to acknowledge that we, like this generation, is one of the last generations to say, you know, I had a good portion of my childhood without a phone, without technology. And that seems pretty sad because my childhood was beautiful, and I think I honestly, if I could take one thing back, would be getting my phone too early. And I don't think anyone would agree with me, but it's true. So true. I got it when I was 12, and I wish I was like 15 because I would have had a few more years with the childlike mind that I had, and my creativity. I mean, I was lucky that my creativity fell into the phone through film, like the video I had made. And so my phone became my creative outlet, but that's not for everyone. And I think that's really important to acknowledge that we're one of the last generations to experience that.
Yeah, briefly. Can you pass it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think one thing that I've learned is that it's so easy to see pictures of people that you perceive as perfect, or see people in everyday life you perceive as perfect, and then at the end of the day I realized that no matter who you are, everybody has insecurities, and it kind of represents that it's just a huge trap essentially, because no matter how much you change about yourself, no matter how much you force yourself to, you know, have a terrible relationship with food. And I just like to add, this is not just for my health, I'm a lot more pleasant to be around when I'm fit. So I think it's important for everybody in our lives. And I think no matter how much we change about ourselves, it never feels like enough. And I think at some point, it just occurred to me that it feels like some societally implemented ploy to distract us with, you know, obsessing over every detail of defining ourselves by our bodies, so that we're so distracted by that we forget to put our energy towards something more powerful and to access the true power that we have inside of us, because it's like this wall that blocks us from accessing our true potential and just holding that. And
thank you. I feel like so much has been said again. I don't need to add a lot. The thing that was really coming to me is a phrase that we've used over our time together, of wishing to be living our lives from the inside out rather than from the outside in. And especially the role that social media plays in encouraging us to live from the outside in, as if whatever our life looks like is our life, when the inner life, there's no space for that, really. And there's definitely no space where that's seen. And usually, I would say, if you're lucky enough to have a close family or a close circle that truly sees you, that's still not enough for this stage of life to feel fully seen. And there's something that I think I have also received in being seen as the guide of this group that's encouraged me to then live more fully into that of, this is how I'm going to guide this group, is by actually living honestly and without the mask, and revealing the inner life as much as possible as a way of modeling what's possible for someone to live from the inside. And it takes someone else to witness that, for most of us, to realize that that matters. Because the difference isn't that, you know, whether you did it or not. I think we all have moments where we feel really embodied and moments where we feel not. But to be seen in that and be told that that matters, and that's an important skill, and that it doesn't matter for someone else, it only matters for you. And I think that gets really lost when we place so much value on what other people think about us. So thank you for describing that even more eloquently from your experience. Yeah, brief. Really quick. Yeah, sorry.
I just wanted to, there was like a really fun story that I'm sure most of you like know exactly what I'm gonna say, but back in like 6th grade when we were gonna like have our first girls group ever, and all of our moms drove us over to Dylan's house, and we were like,
what is this gonna be? Like, I don't know, I'm kind of skeptical. We, the three of us, went up to Dylan's room and all like put on different clothes and did our makeup differently, and we were like, oh, we're gonna have these special little personas to pretend to be different people. We all came up with like different names, and it was like this total thing. We know that our parents had already put in our actual names ahead of time, but just didn't occur to us. Emily said something about being seen, and I really felt like I needed to share this, that like we walked up those steps and we opened that door and she just saw us. It wasn't like she was like just looking at us or judging us like the people at school do. It was just like she saw us for who we were, not who we were pretending to be. And all of our characters fell apart. Yeah. She was like, so are you Isabella? And I was like, oh. Yeah. Thank you for that.
It's good to remember the olden days. Our next question is about becoming an adult. Can you tell us, what does it mean to become an adult? What's the difference between you and a grown-up? Are there any experiences you can recall that have really grown you up or made you feel like an adult? I also want to appreciate and just star, Rosalie called y'all women. Did you know that? That was really sweet. So, I think, Rosalie, feel ready to respond to this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is something that I think about a lot, especially because I'm taller than most adults anyway. So I feel like a lot of the time I'm seen as an adult, and then it's up for me to really question like what that means. Am I an adult? And I was thinking about this yesterday. I was shopping in the grocery store for produce, and I realized that was the highlight of my day. And at that moment I thought, okay, I guess I'm an adult now. That is one marker, I guess. But in all seriousness, I feel like for our age group, we go from one moment to the next being treated like an adult and then a child, an adult and then a child. And it's so hard to kind of know how to be in this space that's just like this transition from childhood to adulthood. There is not really a space for that. Like we're just kind of assumed to handle ourselves, but then we're also not given the space for our opinions to be really valued or heard. And I think that's a problem for society, as was mentioned earlier, about teenagers' voices needing to be implemented into the decisions that are made regarding our lives, our bodies, our choices. And I think it's just really, really hard to feel like you have to let go of that childhood part of yourself once you reach a certain age. I think there's such beauty in the fact that all of us are the child, are the adolescent, the young adult, the adult, and the elder. Like we all have that. As we age, I believe that we hold on to each stage of life and we keep that person within us and we can access them when we let ourselves. And if we don't let the constraints of this society tell us, like, you're an adult, you should probably stop coloring on the paper on the tablecloths now with those broken crayons. I think at that point, we are able to just get the most out of life. Because like, what's the fun of life if you can't be a child once in a while?
I think it can also be hard to mature and feel like you matured when there's not really a structure for emotional growth or emotional development for most people, like unless you're actively in therapy or you're in girls group. But like so much of our life is focused around school and achieving those milestones, and well, those are really great. Like it's also hard to feel like you've reached a milestone when you just turned 18, but you're like still a senior and you're still going to class. And yeah.
I was raised by a single parent, my mom, and I feel like I've been able to have a really, really, really special relationship with just my mom, and it's been incredible, and I've had to take on other responsibilities that some people haven't, being raised by two parents, but not having a dad as present as others means that other people and other guardians have like taken a space, and my mom has been like the world. And but becoming an adult though, I mean, we've definitely talked about like codependence, you know, like what does that mean for both of us? And I feel like there is a talking about my relationship with my mother with other people and their relationships with their mothers. I feel like there's definitely a big gap and a big difference, because I'm a lot closer to her than I feel some other girls are with their moms. And so getting older means that I've communicated not only with my parent about these things, but with like a best friend and with someone I know so well and who knows me so well. And we're getting older means that it kind of feels like we're on the same spectrum, sometimes we're on the same level at times. And so I don't know, we have this joke, it's like, wait, no, I'm the mom. Not me, but my mom will say, like, wait, who's mom? Like, who's the parent? Like, because we do, you know, like, but I mean, in the most like literal sense, it'll be like, I'll make dinner, and you know, or she'll make dinner, and we don't really like worry about it. But in other ways, we actually do, like, only one of us can freak out at one time. Or else it's just like we all fall apart. And we have to have that, you know, we have to be there for each other, and it's something, it's like the most central feeling. It's the most, it feels so ancient. It feels so loving, and being able to grow up with just, I don't know, it's been incredible. And Girls Group has helped me to kind of just, I can't even put it into words. I don't know, it's just like a big beating heart.
I want to second what Rosalie said about how when you grow up, you kind of hold all the different stages of your life with you, because I think, I mean, this part of life is strange, I think you could say. I mean, at least for me, because you're in such a weird transition, and like, it feels like one moment you're a child, the next you're adult, and I feel like it feels like you're kind of letting go of this, like, during my stage, like how old I am, it's like most of my life I've been a child. And like, that's going to change, obviously, as I grow older. So it feels like I would look at it in a way of like, oh, I'm letting go of something that was so special to me. Because I'm so thankful to have had like a really amazing childhood. And like, I'm so grateful for that. But that's made letting go of that so hard in a way that maybe it isn't for other people who don't have as good of a childhood, which is a whole other issue. It's just different because it's been so hard to let go of that feeling, but then I have to remind myself that, well, I'm moving on to a new stage, but like, I still have all those memories, and like all those parts of my life are part of who I am, and all those things that have happened in my childhood, they have shaped who I am, and so that's all with me. And like, and then this part of life where I'm like going into this new realm of adulthood, it's really exciting, and like I can bring that little bit of childhood with me, and like that's perfectly fine.
Thank you. I'm appreciating, as always, in our group, everyone has such a different piece that they're bringing to the circle, and I'm really grateful to hear all of your voices and reminded of our many years of each of your specific little gems of wisdom that you bring every time. I'm really moved by it. And I'm thinking about how, for my growing up, when I remember, let's say like 18 and younger, a support, I didn't have me. I didn't have that. Y'all have been really helpful for me. And I think about, when I remember back, I think about how many experiences I didn't understand and I didn't have anyone to talk to about. And just even to this day, I mean, a lot of those thoughts are still sort of in that moment from that stage. I remember being in 6th grade and showing up and feeling like nobody, like I didn't matter, I felt ugly, I felt fat, I felt, fill in the blank, not enough, everything. And feeling totally invisible in that process. And when I think about what it means to become an adult, on the one hand, I can think about it as just taking on a lot of responsibility and the scariness of that. I know that we're in a constant conversation of negotiating the freedoms we're after and the responsibilities we're willing to take on for those freedoms. But it's also, becoming an adult is finding freedom in who you are and finding freedom in making your own meaning and finding freedom in being willing to risk being totally here, even when it's messy and even when it's not how you thought it would be. And I think it takes being seen in a group like this to be able to process all of those experiences. And anyone in this room who's been in any sort of therapy knows, like, most of the hurts happen right here, in this stage. And so I'm really grateful to hear your reflections on becoming an adult, that it's not just becoming financially independent or whatever that means. It's how you walk in the world. And you also clearly are carrying the joy of what it means to feel free and the responsibility of being a model for other young people and elders too, of what it means to be honest and real and really alive. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to just pause us. How are you all doing? Can we get a little sound from you all just so we can feel your Just a little shake it off. I felt some tears and some intensity and nervousness, and let's just refocus on the candle for a second and feel your posture just kind of, how are you doing? Lots of talking, lots of feelings. Okay. And then settle back in. We're more than halfway through. I'm going to give you the FYI. Alright. So, the next question is about sexism. Talk to us about sexism. Tell us how you've been impacted by sexism, sexual assault, have felt repressed, or in any way unfairly treated, about your body, sexuality, or anything else that you want us to know about what it's like to grow up, not just being a teen, but being a female-bodied and female-identified human.
Well, when this topic came up and we were talking about the panel, I felt like I just wanted to say I'm going to say more than one thing, but primarily, I think that, it's not said that, no one, no matter who you are, what you're doing, no matter what your life looks like, you should never feel uncomfortable in the body you have. And when you walk down the street and feel that, there's something wrong. And I think that for myself, I don't like giving them, people that catcall, or I don't want to give them the power of feeling the discourage. It does. It tears you down, and it, you're walking down the street, you're feeling confident, and then someone says something, and your entire energy changes. And I think what really sucks is that I like walk down Shattuck on like any time after like 4 and I don't feel safe. I've lived here my whole life. I grew up in El Cerrito. I come to Berkeley like probably 4 times a month, probably more than that. But, and I can't feel safe walking in a space that I know so well. And that's terrible. And I don't think that people talk about it enough. I don't think that people like acknowledge that it's not a feeling that anybody should ever feel. And it's so common. Like girls don't even think of catcalling as something that's bad. Like I talk about catcalling at school and they're like, that's just part of my day. And like, it shouldn't be. It's not something that's okay, it's not something that should be looked past. And like, I think as a society, as a community, we have to hold people accountable. And like, you're walking with a group of friends and like one of your guy friends makes a comment about a girl that's walked past, you have to say something and be courageous enough to be like, that's not okay. You can't do that. And that takes a really strong voice because you don't want to be the person to stand out and be the naysayer. But I think that if nobody calls them out and if nobody like holds people accountable, then like there's not going to be any change.
Yeah, I think this reminds me of the past question we were talking about becoming an adult and kind of a loss of childhood, and I think it's saddens me to talk about. It's been a theme here tonight, but I feel like the moment that I really felt like I lost my childhood was when I still felt like a child, but the world stops treating you like one because of your body. And that's crazy because on the inside you still feel like a kid. But all of a sudden there's things that people tell you can't wear, there's places you don't feel safe going. And I think it's especially so hard walking through it in my daily life and having so much kind of anger about the sexism that is so normalized. I think nobody ever talks about how normalized it is. Socially, I mean, even a lot of the messages in the music that we listen to all the time, I'm just not okay with. And a lot of people seem to be okay with it, but it kind of strikes me in a different way. And it's hard to be that person that says, I'm not comfortable with this. Why are these messages that we are integrating into our society as normal and acceptable? And I think the hard thing, especially, is that I feel like whenever we speak up about the sexism that we deal with, we are met with kind of this attitude that we are angry feminists, that we are just complaining and we're never heard. And I think it saddens me because in my view, privilege, whether that's male privilege, white privilege, any kind of privilege you have, that's an opportunity for empathy. That's an opportunity to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's not had that privilege and really just take the time to feel what that person's feeling. And I feel like if more people did that, instead of feeling attacked, just let the issue kind of sink in as something that they could do something about, that would enact a lot of change. Every day people were just willing to listen. We really just want to be heard and to feel like our voices are valued, and we want to be able to feel like we're more than our bodies, and we want to be not defined by what an outward society is telling us is acceptable.
Yeah, I wanted to just add on to that and bring up sort of on the smaller level, like within the social community, when I brought stuff up, like catcalling up, like sort of day-to-day sexism up, with specifically like groups of mixed guys and girls, in my social life at school, there's sort of this resounding response from guys that is like, well, that's just one experience. Like, that's just an anecdote. Like, that's not what it really is. Or like, okay, like that's great, but can you show me a study that like proves that? Or like, what are the actual facts? And like, I feel like part of the shift that needs to happen is believing those experiences, which like we all saw recently on the national stage of believing women. But I think like it's important to call out those moments, like you were both saying, that aren't so explicit, that aren't so like, I'm worried for my safety, but also I'm worried for my voice, and I'm worried for my future.
I notice for myself, and I'm sure everyone, we're all people. Similar to what you said about sort of ingrained, there's, the internal misogyny and big words. I feel like, it's one of, like, talking about body image, talking about sexism, all that stuff. Like, you don't notice it's like creeping up. You're seeing yourself how you want others to see you, or like seeing yourself through the lens of what you think is the right way to look, based on like media and etc. And I feel that, kind of viewing yourself as no longer yourself and as a compilation of parts, and like what, and it's there all the time. It's I do try to challenge myself when I have when sometimes my first go-to thing is to judge myself or others, and I say, wait, that's not what I want. I don't want to automatically compare myself to another woman. I often feel that when I'm jealous of another person, or when I, for some reason, don't like them, it usually stems from the place of feeling incompetent, like that they're more beautiful than I am, and whatever that means. It's all about how somehow I've compiled what is like the most attractive. Like, we all have different. We're all different people, and there's no universal person and like what is the most attractive. But it definitely, there's this like constant like I guess it's a voice, but it's just like an alternative that's always kind of like, oh wait, but it's like the cat caller in your head. You are, and that person is telling you, when you look in the mirror, like, oh, well, is that what you want people to see? And so when you try, I know for me, when I try to wear something, I notice myself pointing out parts of myself that I know that other people are going to notice first. And I'm afraid of what they're going to think. But it's like, wait, but what if I want to show that? Also that's just my body, so it's going to show. And I can't let what people think, or what, they're not even going to say anything, but I'm just like already like, oh, you're going to think that, and I'm going to have to like, oh no. And how am I going to process that? And also, does it matter? And like, where does it come from? All these things. But it's something that I've noticed as I've gotten older, that I'm also kind of it stems from myself. It's like sexism also comes from, it's not really me, but it is that like cycle inside myself, and I notice that it also comes from me, and my own voice in my own words are telling me that I'm not good enough, and it's crappy.
Thank you. I'm so moved by your words. The cat collar in my head. That phrase is like, ouch. It hurts to think about that and how true that is, and how a lot of growing up like internally is learning how to deal with that and having to learn how to navigate that voice maybe not going away, outside or inside. And that's so tricky. And just speaking to what you were just, the group spent time talking about catcalling and kind of the daily acts of sexism, and it makes me think about this kind of invisible oppression that happens. Like, it's so common that it's invisible. It's so everyday that it's just part of our day. I'm moved thinking about what that really feels like. And I also, I mean, all of us, as you get the sense, we've shared our deepest stories and our deepest secrets with each other, and this panel isn't about the revealing of every deepest thing that ever happened to us, but I also want to name that all of us have experienced sexism, all of us have experienced sexual assault to varying degrees, and I mean like the full spectrum. And I want to just name that because it feels like it's the thing that none of us are going to tell the detailed story of tonight, that all of us know it too well. And just to offer that really to the fire, you know, that this is something that none of us as individuals are going to heal, but within us and how we treat each other, that's really where this gets going. So I'm offering that on behalf of all of us and all girls and all people, that we do the work and learn what it means to be a victim of it, so that we're no longer a victim of it, internally or externally. Okay, deep breath. Thank you. All right, we're entering into the end here. This one is for the parents. Parents often want to know what's going on in your lives. But if they ask the question, how was your day? They get 5. How can parents orient to teens to offer an invitation to meaningful conversation? What's a good way in to your world for a parent or a caring adult? If you could offer the parents and people who are like parents in this room advice, what would you want them to know?
I think that it's really important in a relationship between a parent and a teen, for the teen to, when they open up about a problem or something really vulnerable, and they open up about that, to not feel like they're going to be judged or talked down to, or worse, punished. Because if that happens, they're not going to want to come back to that parent and open up to them again. Like, they'll probably want to keep more from them instead of talking, and then you kind of lose that safe space that should exist between a parent and a child, or a parent and a teen. And like, that's really important, to have a safe space to go to find support, to get advice when you ask for it. And if you don't have that, then you either just don't have it, or you have to find it somewhere else. And like, luckily, this girls group has been kind of one of those like other places to find that like safe space. But like we said, not everyone has it, and it's like pretty rare to find something like this. So yeah.
I think one of the biggest things between advice for parents would be to let your teenager come to you. I mean, if you've ever tried to love an animal, it doesn't work by, holding them and wanting them to love you. You have to let them come to you. If you trap an animal, they want to get out, and they're not going to want to be there. And I think a lot of issues can be just like avoided by letting your child come to you, in whatever sense that is. I think a lot of problems can be avoided with just doing that.
I mean, I want to go off what Dylan said. Like, I think it's important to give your teen space to come to you. And I think it's important to share your experiences with them, because if you want to hear their experiences, they probably want to hear yours. And it's like, we don't want to hear all the perfect ones. Like, we want to hear the ones that you learned from, and the ones that grew you into the person that you are and the parent that you are. And I think that also we want to feel respected as our own person with our own individual opinion, and that when we come to you, our opinion or our experience is just as valid as yours, even though we're younger and less experienced. But like, that doesn't make it any less important.
Yeah, I was also going to say speak from experience, but also avoid making it like a moral lesson or like, I learned this, so you should do this. I think that's something like we've all experienced. And something else I thought of was to have like at least one thing that you can talk about that isn't like a fraught or serious topic. So whether it's like a TV show or a book, or like you're interested in like the same subject in school or something like that. It's nice to just have some, or have something you go do together that's not, so that every conversation doesn't have to be this like serious, like let's figure things out, or you're doing this wrong, or on either end. Yeah, and then we also, like this is coming from all of us, but we kind of wanted to give a shout out that like, it's really hard, and we recognize that, and we love you a lot.
Anybody else? You can add something.
No, I mean, my experience, I feel like with my mom, she, like I said, she's like my best friend, and so we have like our own. I feel like us and our relationship is also, we have all these inside jokes, and like it's all, and so you're looking at me and I don't know what to say. We have so many, the basis of our entire friendship, relationship, everything is, there's so much love and so much humor and so much there, and so everything is a thing, and everything is also just like funny, and it doesn't have to be a big deal, or it can be a big deal, but whatever, because we like feel it out. And I guess this isn't really advice. I guess maybe I love you.
Thank you so much. I think I'm feeling the tears and the tenderness, and just wanting to acknowledge, with this relationship, as Diana was speaking to at the beginning, there's an assumption that this is a survival mode, and that there's like an armor that goes up, and in a way we all have that, we all know what that's like, and we start to project that onto each other too sometimes. And so just in honoring the tears that are present now and that have been in the past for us, this is actually a really soft spot. And it's probably one of the places that's the most like, at you parents, because there's like a total shutdown, or like, get away from me, like literally a slamming of the door. And I want to just, to hold another reflection that's like, that's how tender it is. That's how much the relationship matters, and that's how scary it is to be in the process, actively in the moment of having to let that go on some level in this transition from childhood into young adulthood. And it sort of doesn't matter how great or healthy your relationship is, it's the roles you're playing. And just wanting to own, in this group, we've gone through so many different relations with you parents and as children to young women, and there have been a lot of slammed doors. And I'm sure that the parents have felt that the most. I mean, the doors haven't been slammed on me, I'll say that. And I know that because of my privileged position, I have a different take. but I also, because of my privileged position, want to name how soft this place is. And in this thank you that just came from Kate, that is from all of us, and there are a lot of tears there, because there's no way to thank you for parenting. And we're not set up to do that. So I just want to take the moment, thank you, Kate, for bringing it again, of just what it means to actually be alive in this process with you. Yeah, thank you. We are coming into the end. We have 2 questions. And we're going to do this a little differently. Everyone's going to respond briefly to these last 2 questions.
I kind of already touched on this, but just to not waste time comparing yourself to other people in any area.
You don't have to be so pessimistic. You can do it. I would probably say, don't be afraid to take the mask off sooner. And don't be afraid to be real with yourself.
Probably say get off your phone. And look up.
Second that one, but also just don't be afraid of being afraid.
I didn't even think about answering, but I'll say learning to love yourself way more important than it seems. Our last question. As you know, these are some wild times to be growing up. The pace of life, social media, seeming global doom, etc. It's often not understood or respected that this next generation, the one younger than you, is going to live out its own unknown path. It's a mystery. If you could offer the next generation any words of wisdom, what would they be? And this felt like it's what brought it to life when we were talking about it, is my son, and thinking about him as the next generation. And I would love for him, and will be able to hear your advice for him. It's not just like, kids in 6th grade. I'm talking about like epic next generation. Yeah. Okay, to you, Rosie.
I think the first thing has already been touched on a bit is, I know technology is so addictive and so enthralling, but please try to find those moments for interpersonal connection and really what you can gain from just being so present with another human being. And the second piece of advice is that no one mistake defines you. That is the most important, I think.
I think mine would be to find a mentor who's not just a friend to you, but who really challenges you and pushes you, whether that's like intellectually or emotionally, or just kind of makes you hit that edge a little bit.
Kids being born now are probably going to live into the next century and into the next, 21, and that we need to really have, we need to change how for the population, it's going to be massive. And so when I was reading this question, I was thinking more about the physical, like the earth, and the need for a change in specifically our agriculture system and industrial agriculture and what it's doing to the planet, and how we throw away Americans like a third of our food that we produce. And so
I would tell little Shay to not be afraid to use his voice and speak strongly.
I think we